So what do we have here? We have all three HDZero goggles made specifically for the HDZero system, but which one is right for you? Well, today we're gonna find out. So here they are, every goggle available for the HDZero system, and I didn't want to include any other third party or any other brand that can be used with the VRX. These are goggles designed specifically for the HDZero system, and to my knowledge we have only three. Now starting from our left here we have the Emax Transporter 2 HD, followed by the Fat Shark Scout HD, and finally we have the DiviMat HDZero goggles. Okay, so let's start off with the simplest and most inexpensive option, which is the Transporter 2 HD. Now this one here retails for around $279 and has a lot going for itself, including this nice modern design here and this expandable faceplate right here. Furthermore, this one here can convert into a field monitor, which is really cool if you're in the field, you want to show people how this FPV system here works, or if you're on the bench trying to test your drones, this is a really cool feature. It also features a 720p screen, and it has an internal battery built into it, good for 1 hour of continuous use. Now this goggle has most of the standard features found in other options, like the 720p screen and DVR recording. Now the interesting about this one is that it is equipped with only 2 antennas. Most of the other goggles have 4 antennas, and that's going to take a hit in the performance department. Other than that, this is a really good option for a beginner, someone trying to get into this hobby and is set on the HDZero system. Okay, so next we have the Fat Shark Scout HD, and this is the one I'm really excited about. Now, let's be clear here, this goggles here is discontinued by Fat Shark, but just because this product here is discontinued doesn't mean it's a bad product by any means. Now this one has a lot going for it. Now this one here is inexpensive. This one here goes for around $250, making it as cheap or even cheaper than the Transporter 2. Besides that, this is also the lightest. It also has a 1080p screen, and it's the only option that supports glasses. So I can use these with my glasses, opposed to these other options here on the market. Besides that, this thing here has built-in patch antennas, and you also have the option to add your other antennas on here if you want to. So there's a lot packed in here for the price. Now, having said all of that, Fat Shark did declare this as a beta product, and that's kind of true. Because there really isn't any instruction manual that was ever published for this. You can look online, you're not gonna find anything on this, but I must say that this is one hell of a beta product if you wanna consider it a beta product. So this one here is the sleeper of the bunch. This one here is the diamond in the rough. And if you can find this thing here really is the bargain of the bunch. Okay, so last but not least, we have the HDZero goggles. These were made by DiviMath, the same people who engineer and designed the HDZero system. So this one here was a long time in the making. Now this thing here is a feature pack performance house here, and a lot of features here came from the Pilot Group. So this one here is the most expensive of the bunch, coming in around $600, but it does pack a lot of features, and features that the Pilot Group wants. In fact, you can think of this as a goggles for the pilots by the pilots. So they did take a lot of influence and advice from the Pilot Group while they were designing these goggles. Now these goggles have some notable features like these 1080p screens. These are OLED screen giving you vibrant colors, and these things are set at 90 to around 100 hertz. So this thing is compatible with not only the HDZero system, but also analog. And then you also have HDMI ins and out, making this compatible with other protocols on the market. Furthermore, you have an AV in, you have a microphone in. This thing also has the capabilities to actually have Wi-Fi as well, to have some Wi-Fi streaming. This thing is fully packed, guys, and actually for the price, it's still really a bargain because you have tons of features that the Pilot Group and probably that you want as well. So overall, this is not only the best goggles for the HDZero system, but arguably right now, the best goggles in FPV, guys. So this one here has set the bar pretty high for other goggles to come in the future. Okay, so now that we know a little bit about these goggles, let's compare them by category and see how they score. We're gonna start off first with the performance, and we're gonna start off with the Transporter 2 HD. Now the Transporter 2 did a pretty good job, especially considering that this thing is down on 2 antennas opposed to the 4 on the other 2 options. Now this thing did pretty well when you're close proximity or if you're in line of sight, but it struggles a little bit when you go behind obstacles like trees or go really far. Besides that, it did a pretty amazing job regardless. Now you can easily upgrade these antennas on the Transporter 2 HD. These are SMA connectors, and you can put your favorite antennas on here if you want to. And these other 2 goggles has the advantage of having a patch antenna in them, opposed to this one here with just 2 Omnis. But you can easily update this and put a patch in the front, 2 patches, or a patch and an Omni. And I did do it in the testing, and I did get some pretty good results. But overall, this thing here performed adequately well, especially if you're a new person getting into the hobby. This thing should serve you really well if you're flying maybe a beginner drone or a tiny whoop. So overall, this one here is gonna get 1 point. Next, we have the performance on the Fat Shark Scout HD, and I've used this goggles for a while. In fact, this was my first HDZero goggles. And I say before, this one here is shockingly good. This is the performance bargain of the 3. Now, in my test, this one did pretty well. This thing did exceptionally well. This thing performs as well as any standalone VRX or even the HDZero goggles, and arguably better than the HDZero goggles. Now you can decide for yourself. I've shown you the video, and in certain parts this one did perform well. Now this one has the advantage of having built-in patch antennas on here, and you also have the option of adding 2 SMA antennas here as well. Now I did go with a half Omni, half patch setup on here, and if you're really adventurous, you can actually open these up and then put some upgraded patch antennas in here as well. But these things perform very well. I had no issues with these. And to be honest, guys, I'm actually surprised at the performance of these. So if you can find these guys, yeah, I would just snag it up. This one here is the sleeper of the bunch. The performance on here is really good. And because of that, guys, I do want to give it a 3, but it is going to get a 2. It is going to get 2 points because of that. Finally, we have the HDZero goggles, and this one here performed very well. And I don't know if it's because of my premium antennas on here or just the algorithm in this goggles. Now, this thing here performed as well as the Scout HD. In certain cases, the Scout HD did outperform this one as well, but there's some special sauce or special magic going on in here. And I don't know if it's a combination of, as I said before, the algorithm or the OLED displays. But whenever I do wear this in a flight, the image is just crystal clear. Even when there's some breakup, it's a lot more confidence inspiring. So because of that, this one here is gonna get 3 points, although the performance is very similar to the Scout HD. Okay, so the next category is screen, and we're talking about the screen size, the resolution, the refresh rates. And let's start off with the Transporter 2 HD. The screen here is pretty good, not bad, like a 4.5-inch screen. This one here is 720p, around 60 Hertz. So pretty much the standard of what we expect in any kind of traditional or standard goggles. So this one is pretty good, and because of that, it is gonna get 1 point. Okay, so moving to the screens and display of the Scout HD. This one here has a 1080p at 60 Hertz. And this one does a really good job as well. This one also accommodates glasses. Now, it's a little bit different than the HDZero goggles in the fact that this one here is one large screen. And for me personally, this is a personal thing, I actually like those. It feels like you're in a big theater or a big movie theater, and the screen is very, very wide. So your eyes have to be moving left and right to see the whole screen, but it does give you a more immersive experience. And I actually do prefer that sometimes to the screens on the HDZero goggles. And as I said before, this one here does have a 1080p screen. And to be honest, guys, a lot of people brushed over that specifications, but at the time before this HDZero goggles came out, it was the only goggles out there with a 1080p screen. Although we had no cameras at the time that could show resolution in 1080p, this one did have it. Now we do, or recently we did get a camera with a 1080p resolution, and this thing here can still do it. So this goggles really was ahead of its time. And because of that, it is gonna get 2 points. Finally, we have the screens in the HDZero goggles, and as I said before earlier, this thing has an amazing optics on here. This thing has a 1080p screen. It has the resolution that we all want. And recently there was a firmware giving this the capabilities to render images with a 100 Hertz image. So this thing is pretty cool. On top of that, you have these OLED displays giving you really dark blacks and really vibrant colors when you're flying. This one here is amazing. Furthermore, you have these optic adjustments on the bottom here to cater to your specific vision. This thing here is amazing, and the experience on here, it's really good. And because of all of that, this one here does get the 3 points. Okay, so the next category is weight, and that's really crucial and important because when you're flying for minutes or hours at a time, it can become very fatiguing and it could actually cause a lot of weight on your head. So this is really, really important. Let's start off with the Transporter 2 HD. Now this one here feels the heaviest of the bunch. And to be honest with you guys, this one also feels like the most front heavy, only because all the stuff is packed into this one monitor right here, instead of it being evenly distributed throughout the goggles. So this one here does feel the heaviest, and we'll see that in a few seconds. Now coming along here to the Scout HD, it's also a box style goggles, but the weight is evenly distributed better than the Transporter 2. And this one here also feels a little bit lighter, and we'll see once we weigh all three of them. Now finally, you have the most compact one here, which is the HDZero goggles. So obviously they can distribute the weight on the sides or in the center. And this one here feels the most balanced for now, but it also feels heavier than the Scout HD. So let's weigh them. All right, 388 grams for the Transporter 2. So this one here is the heaviest of the bunch. And because of that, it is gonna get 1 point. And that's 297 grams, which it is lighter than the Transporter 2. So this one here is gonna get 3 points. And here we are, this is the HDZero goggles. This one here weighs 360 grams, but it is still significantly heavier than the Scout HD, and because of that, it's gonna get 2 points. Okay, so coming on the heels of the weight of these goggles is also the fit and the comfort of these goggles. Let's start off with the Transporter 2. And this one here is relatively comfortable. You have this foam pad on here, and it's pretty good. But after wearing this for a couple of minutes, this thing becomes a little bit more painful. And on top of that, you have this big cutout right here for your nose. So there's a little bit more light leak in this goggles compared to the others. And because of that, this thing will get only 1 point. Now coming along to the Scout HD, this one here is the lightest of the bunch, so that will improve the comfort. It is also the most comfortable in my opinion. Now this is a very subjective thing based on the shape and size of your face. Now instead of having foam, you also have a leather pad on here. This thing is really, really nice. Now you have cut it down here for your nose as well, just like the Transporter 2, but it's not as large, letting less light in. So this one here, the combination of the lightness and the shape of the face, including this nice leather pad, this one here to me is the most comfortable of the three, and this one gets 3 points. Now come along to the HDZero goggles. Now this one here is pretty cool, very, very premium. The fit on this one here is really, really nice. Now you're back to a nice foam-like material. Now this one here is a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more dense than the one you find on the Transporter 2 HD. Now this goggle does come with 2 faceplates, so if you have a wider face, you can just change the faceplate on this. I do have a more curved face, so I have this narrow, curvier one. And this one does a good job sealing every kind of light out of here. This thing is extremely dark. It feels like a custom-made faceplate, honestly. It's that comfortable. But the combination of the weight, I don't know, this one here, it's comfortable. It seals very well. I don't know, I still feel like this one here, because it's lighter, is more comfortable, and sometimes I do forget that I have it on. So because of that, this one is gonna get 2 points. Okay, so next category is battery and battery life. Let's start off with the Transporter 2 HD, and this one has a built-in battery. This one here is good for around 1 hour of continuous use. But in the real world, I've been getting a little bit less than 60 minutes, somewhere between 35 and 40 minutes. Now the HDZero is demanding. All 3 of these goggles do have a fan to help cool the electronics in here. And I don't know, these things consume a lot of power. So the battery life isn't the best. If you're gonna go fly a session, most likely you'll be flying longer than 45 minutes. But having said that, you do have the option to add a USB-C plug right here, or 5-volt power source, and that will extend the life of your goggles or your flying session. And because of that, this one here is gonna get 1 point. Now moving on to the Fat Shark Scout HD. Now there's no built-in battery in this, but you do have this barrel plug right here. Now I've been using this cord right here. This is a pretty standard cord here for most goggles, including DJI and Fat Shark. You plug this in here and you have an XT60 connector on here. I run a medium-sized battery. This is an 850 milliamp hour 4S battery, and I can get tons, more than an hour of flight time easily with these goggles. Now there is a fan in here, but the power consumption on these goggles isn't that high. I've never had an issue with flying these. And one battery. These things are pretty efficient, guys. Really, really good. And because of that, this will get 3 points. Now moving on to the HDZero goggles, this thing feels very substantial, and there's a lot of premium product in here. And usually with premium product, a lot of features comes power consumption. Furthermore, this one here features 3 cooling fan in here, as well as an OLED high refresh screen on here. So this thing does consume a lot more power than the Scout HD. Now using the same battery on cord, I can notice a significant decrease in my flight times or my goggle times here. So it's not as efficient. And that's pretty evident because when this thing was being released, there was a lot of testing being done. And then you have these standard Fat Shark, 18650 battery cases, which is compatible with most goggles, including these right here. And the guys at DiviMat and the guys who were doing the testing did not recommend those 18650 batteries for these goggles. This thing consumes a little bit more power, and because of that, this will get only 2 points. All right, so coming down to the nitty-gritty, and that's a very subjective thing, and that's depending upon you, and that's the cost. Let's start off with the Transporter 2 HD. Now this is the newest goggles of the bunch here. This one here retails around $279. It's a really good option for the feature set, the fact that it can turn into a monitor. This is the perfect goggles to be put into an RTF kit if you're starting off. It's a very low commitment way to get into the hobby, especially if you're sold on the HDZero protocol. Now, $279 isn't bad, especially the fact that you have a goggles and DVR and a 720p screen. And because of that, this one here gets 2 points. Now moving on to the Scout HD, these things retail for around $250. Sometimes there were actually bigger discounts. I bought these around the same price, around $270 like the Transporter 2. The price can fluctuate, but who knows what the market is going to dictate for the price of these goggles. But these things were initially released at $250. Now you get a lot, as I said before, for your $250. And it's a really good deal and a bargain. It's simply hard to believe. I know a lot of guys are, not attracted to box style goggles, but for the price, if this was still available or was still being produced and sold in stores, this would be a really good option. And because of that, it's gonna get 3 points. It's really affordable. Finally, we have the HDZero goggles. This thing is very premium. As I said before, every time I touch it, pick it up, it just feels like a quality device. But with quality items comes a higher price. This one here retails for around $600. And even with that, guys, you're getting multiple goggles. If you're looking at this as just a HDZero goggles, it might be kind of pricey, but considering that it also has an analog bay in here, this can be used as an analog goggles, or who knows, a walk snail goggles and an HDZero goggles. You're pretty much getting 3 or more goggles in one. Furthermore, you have these HDMI ins on here, so you can use this on your computer while you're flying your sim and have a more immersive experience than using just the monitor on your computer. So there's a lot of features packed into here, and although it is the most expensive of the bunch, it does have a lot of features built into it. And because of that, it is gonna get 1 point because it is the most expensive of the bunch. And that might be, I don't know, the gatekeeper to you getting one of these or not. Okay, last but not least is a really not so talked about category, and that's how future-proof are these goggles. Let's start off with the Transporter 2 HD. Now, initially when I thought about this, I thought this was gonna be the least future-proof of the bunch. I mean, there's no ports in here, there's a built-in battery, so if this battery dies out, you can't really replace it, so it really isn't future-proof. But the more I think about it, it really does have some good features. If you buy this initially as a beginner goggles, this thing can last you a long time. You still have the port here to add an external battery, so even if the battery dies in here, you can still use it. But even if you outgrow this and you get a better performing goggles, you can easily convert this to a goggle. So if you're flying, you can have your friends look outside. If you want to work on your bench, you have this 1/4 screw on here, and you can put this to a tripod and have this on your workbench, and now you have a work monitor. So this thing can be used for other things in the future. So it is future proof. And the big thing is if you have people watching you, they're curious about you in the park while you're flying, you can just hand them this and they can see what you're doing and not be so worried about what this guy is doing with his goggles. So this one here is future proof, and because of that, it is gonna get 2 points. Okay, so moving on to the Scout HD. I did think this one here was gonna be future proof only because it does have a higher resolution screen. 1080p is pretty cool. We have only one camera on the market that's capable of doing 1080p. And you also have these patch antennas on here. If you want to upgrade them, you can easily do that. It does perform very, very well, just as well as any VRX or the actual HDZero goggles. So I do think it's going to be a while before this thing becomes outdated. Now, the cool thing about it as well is that initially before DiviMath and Fatshark separated and went their own ways, there really wasn't any support or firmware updates for this, but now that DiviMath has gone its own way, there's a lot more support for these goggles, and I do feel or think that this thing will be supported in the future. So that's a good thing, and I do think that this thing will be future-proof, but then again, this can only be used with HDZero system. Besides that, you're locked into it. There's no inputs, no outputs, so you're kind of locked into it as a goggle, and a box-style goggles at that. So with that said, this is gonna get 1 point. Okay, last but not least, we have the HDZero goggles, and this thing is a powerhouse, guys. If you just look at the bottom of this goggles, you'll see all the ports, all the peripherals. This thing will be here for some time. This is the main goggles by DiviMath. They will support this for a long time to come. It does get frequent updates. You have this high resolution screen with high refresh rates. You have all the ports on here, so even if you get tired of flying or you don't want to fly HDZero, you can easily use it with other systems, whether it be analog or walk snail or any other manufacturer that has an HDMI out. These goggles can accept it. So this thing here, as I said before, not only is it really good for HDZero, but the FPV community as a whole. And because of that, this does get 3 points for being future-proof. Okay, now that we know a little bit more about these goggles based upon the category and some of their strengths and weaknesses, Let's tally up the score and see which one has the most points. Now, starting off with the Transporter 2 HD, this one has a total of 10 points. Not too bad, pretty good. Next, we have the Scout HD. This one has a total of 16 points. Pretty impressive, more than the Transporter 2. And finally, we have the HDZero Goggles, the most premium one, and this one also has 16 points. So, what the heck does that mean? Does that mean that this isn't good? I shouldn't buy this? Or maybe the Scout HD is as good or better than the HDZero Goggles? Why am I paying $600 for this when this one here is $250? Well, if you've watched any of my other comparison videos, you'll know that the points system really doesn't hold any value. It's just a way to show the strength and weakness of each category, and you can cater that to your own specific needs. You have to decide which category, which features means the most to you. For example, if you want a high refresh screen, then you're gonna go with this one. If you wear glasses and you know that's important to you, well, this is the only option that accommodates glasses. If price is a big deal, then here you go. You're gonna have this, Transporter 2 HD. It just depends on what you want from your goggles, guys. After all, these are just tools that we use to fly our drones. Having said that, I won't just leave you hanging just like that. And I'll restate the question that I stated initially in the beginning of this video. So which option is right for you? Well, it really depends on what you're willing to give up in order to get what you need. For example, are you willing to give up some time? Are you willing to give up some money? And that can be dependent on which one you're going for. If you are time sensitive, then you're gonna have to go for the Transporter 2 or maybe the HDZero Goggles. These Scout HDs, they're no longer on the market. They can be found, but it's gonna take some time. You might find one in bad shape or none, and then maybe a month later, you might find another one that's available. So if time is of the essence, then this may not be for you. Now, if price is an issue, then there you go. You might wanna go for the Transporter 2. It is the bargain and the cheapest one of the bunch. And if you just want any option, if you're the pilot that wants every available option, you want the best performance, you wanna have a future-proof device, a lot of people love that, then you're gonna go for the HDZero Goggles. It is simply the best overall goggles, and I see it being supported for some time to come, guys. So with that said, the Transporter 2, if you're a beginner trying to get into this hobby, you're kind of unsure if you wanna do FPV flying for a long time, you wanna test the market, and you're pretty much sold on the HDZero system, here's your goggles for you. If you're on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you're into this, maybe you're professionally been flying for a few weeks, months, years, and you want the best performing goggles, or you have plans to get other goggles, like say you have analog drones, or you may have a walk snail or avatar drone, then this might be for you. This thing is compatible with all those protocols. It is really the best goggles for HDZero. You have all the options, features, all the inputs. This is the goggles for you. You're gonna pay a little bit more for it, but this is the perfect one for you. Now, if you're out the middle of the road, maybe you're not time sensitive, you're thinking about coming into the HDZero ecosystem, you have some time, you have some money, then maybe you are the enthusiast. You're the person who has time, you wanna get the quirky, weird goggles. It performs very well, it's affordable. It's hard to find, so you have to be motivated to look for it and then choosing the right one. Well, this Scout HD is for you guys. It's really much the diamond in the rough. Really, really good goggles here, guys. Overall, you can't go wrong with one of these. Choose the best one for your situation, and I'm sure you will be pleased, guys. So hopefully this video was helpful in making a smart purchase decision when you do decide to buy your next HDZero goggles. And if it was helpful, please hit that like button. It does help the channel. Now, if you're looking for a drone to complement your new HDZero goggles, I have 3 right here. I have a quick and fast 5-inch racing drone, as well as a smooth cinematic drone right here. And last but not least, I have a small tiny whip. All 3 equipped with the HDZero system, providing smooth and clear images to your goggles. I've done full reviews on these 3 drones, and I'll leave them linked right here. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.